Brothers and sisters, we live in a time when trust is a luxury, not a norm anymore, like though it was before. People sign deals without honesty. Yani, they enter partnerships without sincerity. And to make things worse, they even break promises as if they mean nothing. Yani, they take it like a grain of salt, like it's something, not a form of violation. But now when you see this in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not just tell us to believe. He told us how to build a society of what we call trust. So now, however, that is what you call more clear in one of the most profound, yani deep, detailed ayahs of the Quran. Now, when you look at this in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 282, which is the longest ayah in the entire kitab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, when you look at this, when it comes to dealings in partnerships or signing contracts, this ayah is not about prayer, it's not about yani siyam, fasting, but it is about contracts. Yes, it's about contracts. And also the contracts or partnerships which we make, they're also a form of ibadah. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to build yani, a civilization where faith manifests in what you call justice. Faith is tied to what? Justice. Those things, they move when they're aligned. So, when you look at this, for a society to thrive, there has to be what you call agreements, contracts, partnerships, whereby there has to be that form of unity with faith connecting to what you call justice. So now here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yani, in the Quran, concerning this, He says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha tadayantum bidayni illa ajalin musamma faktubuhu. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling out that, oh, you believe, oh, you who believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, when you contract a debt for what we call a fixed term, ajalin musamma, a fixed term, Allah is saying that write it down. Faktubuhu, yani you write it down, you note it. Subhanallah. When I came through this ayah, I got amazed and I was like, Subhanallah. Even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ordering the believers to make what we call, when you're making agreements, fixed terms, you need to write them down. And I got baffled by this. So the thing is, ask yourself that, do we see the beauty of this ayah, which we can even reflect on? Because here, before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to pray, to fast, to sacrifice, He tells us how to be accountable for our dealings with one another. So when you look at this, I find that this ayah acts as yani, the constitution of economic ethics, yani, morals in Islam. It acts as yani, the blueprint of trust, because every partnership is built upon one moral pillar, that is clarity, or what you call trust. Every partnership, be it in companies, be it in mutual funds, or all the business dynamics which we deal on, the basic foundation, it is what? Trust. So, when you reflect upon this ayah, as we have seen, as I've been reciting, the ayah, it begins with the phrase, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Allah is calling out, oh, you who believe. Yani, this is a favor. Allah is favoring the believers. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Because already it's a society already, Muslims are there. Allah has already proven that, yes, you are believers. So now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is further showing us giving us the extra care, the extra precautions that we have to take since we have attained that quality of being believers. Because here, this addresses the link of what you call iman, faith, directly with what you call mu'amala, yani transactions. Faith is tied to transactions. Because of the alladina, the ism mawsul here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that if you truly have faith, it must reflect on how you handle what you call transactions, how you handle money, how when it comes to money, business dealings, how do you, if you claim that you have faith. So when you notice here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say all traders, all businessmen, he said, oh, those who have faith, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, all those who have attained faith. Why? Because in Islam, even a small agreement, just a small agreement between two people, yes, it can be in terms of renting, it can be in terms of payment, a worker and an employee. It's also a moral act of ibadah. And then when you continue here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, faktubuhu. Yes, and Allah is saying, write it down, note it down. It's a simple command which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, faktubuhu, write it down, note it down as proof. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-wise. And he knows, he understands the human nature because he's the creator. He's the sustainer of everything. He sees everything at all dimensions because he's Al-Basir. He has full insight. So when you look at this, this is the divine command of what's called documentation here. The Quran's way of removing what you call confusion, mistrust, and dispute. Because if things are not written down, there'll be a form of mistrust. As we all see, we have experienced this in different ways of the way we work. Writing a contract isn't a sign of doubt. Yani it's a sign of discipline. Because as we see right now, these days, most businesses, they survive through what you call contracts. There have to be agreements made. When it comes to making projects, whatsoever, all those things involve what you call making agreements, contracts. How do you know that this contract is still on? How do you know that it's going to be terminated? All these business dealings which we deal with. The foundation of them, it's what you call making agreements. They can be mutual. They can be in the form of partnerships. In other ways. So the question is, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasize on writing down contracts? Because with his divine wisdom, writing preserves justice and protects relationships. Because without agreements, if we just come with verbal agreements nowadays, someone can end up twisting and say, no, where is it? Where is the proof? And what happens? Families are being torn apart. Society is being wrecked because of such minute things. So here, business is often done on trust. Yes? It was on spoken words. It could be on handshakes during the Arab society. But now here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated that culture and say, no, things have to be written. Put paperwork, as we call it nowadays. So here, Allah, it didn't destroy trust. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not destroying trust. It is structuring it. Trust is being structured when things are written. So here, the purpose of this command is not about bureaucracy. I don't want to be quoted by the bureaucracy, where it's about love and care. So when you write a contract, you protect your brother from forgetfulness. And also, again, you protect yourself from misunderstanding. Because everything is already written there. Yes, our minds can forget. We can easily be swayed by different things. So when we put things in written form, it removes what you call ambiguity. And there is clarity. There is no room for giving excuses.